Alright guys, my name's Chris and welcome to another gear review. Right, got quite an important bit of safety kit to do for you today. Bit of head protection. Now, there's a lot of people at Airsoft that think, well, why would you bother wearing a helmet? There's no point. Well, let's be honest guys, the most important piece of protection you've got when you're airsofting is your eye probe. You know, you wouldn't go into a game with your eyeballs unprotected because they're just going to get shot out. Now, it's going to depend where you're playing. I don't always wear a helmet because it's not always required. It's fairly unlikely if you're in a wide open woodland that you're actually going to hit your head. But if you're playing at an urban site, if you're going in and out of buildings, ducking through windows and climbing through and leaping through small doorways, anything, ladders, anything at all, or there's hard surfaces around, there's that potential to bump your head. Now, if you fall over and hit your arm or your back or whatever, it's probably going to be alright. But you hit your skull on a hard edge, corner, a curb, just flat down on the road, you're in trouble. Now, a helmet is going to be protection. Even a cheap bit of clone gear like this, in this particular case, I mean, they vary. Some of them are thin plastic and they aren't going to really do you any good. This actual particular piece is pretty thick plastic and it's got not bad pad system on the inside, so it's quite comfy and it's actually going to do that protection job. Now, as you can see before, it interfaces with my eye protection pretty well, so I've got no worries there. If you're going to be wearing a mesh or a face mask, they're pretty popular, you shouldn't have a problem with that. Now, as some of you will probably have already realised, this is a clone of the Cry Airframe helmet. It's come out fairly recently. It's the only clone around that I know of, and it's pretty good overall. You can have a look at a few features of it. It fits me well. I wear a 58cm beret, headwear, etc., and that's about the biggest you can go with this. As far as I know, they don't make any other sizes yet, so you're left, if you do wear a 59 or a 60cm, then hard luck for the moment. There's not a lot of adjustability obviously in a solid helmet. You can undo some of the screws on the sides here and change it a little bit, but there isn't a lot of flexibility here, so bear that in mind before you purchase one. So yeah, as I mentioned, only recently released. Pretty good impressions so far. Let's have a close in look at some of the features. Okay, so as I mentioned, clone of the Cry Airframe helmet, first clone that's been made as far as I know. And so we're going to get a bit closer in on some of the actual features here, and probably best to start off with the actual main shell itself. Now, one of the most prominent features of the shell of the helmet is probably this area here. It's a two-piece design. Now, with the real thing, this gives you various advantages in terms of absorption of the ballistic forces. If you actually take a hit from a round or from some shrapnel, it's all designed to help minimise the trauma to the actual wearer's head when it does take a hit. But also, a side benefit, and one of the big pluses, is it allows airflow through here. Basically, it's going to keep your head a lot cooler when the temperature is really rising. A couple of minor details that distract. You can see this point here, and you've got this bit here where you can see where it's been moulded, probably injection moulded plastic. It does look a bit off, but then you can just get the Cry helmet cover for it. That's going to cover it up. Comes pre-drilled with 3 holes here for the optical night vision mount. It's all held together pretty solidly. As I mentioned before, it is, from, again, going back to that safety aspect, it is really tough, and the pads are good, so from that point of protecting your head, should you fall over or take a hit on someone else's rifle, or you fall off a ledge, or you trip over, hit a curb or something, I think this is going to, it might not necessarily survive the hit, but I think your head will survive, and that's the main thing. And it's not an expensive bit of gear either. It's these are around £30-40 online. Whereas if I was to try and get a real one of these in the UK, I'm looking at well over £700 plus something like £125 charge at level peaks for the administrative fee, seeing as the real one is restricted under the ITAR regulations in the US. So for £40 is quite a big difference to nearly 900. I mean, pushing towards £1,000 for the real thing, and I don't need ballistic protection, so this does just fine. So yeah, that's the shell, all good, held together quite firmly, good replica of the real thing, a few minor aesthetic blemishes, but that's no big deal. Arc rails, unfortunately I don't actually have any accessories to test on these, but the plastic doesn't exactly fill me with joy. It's alright. I can't, unfortunately, as I say, comment on the specs of the 20mm rails. They look close enough. I think, I reckon if you really want to upgrade this, you're going to be able to just take these screws out and put the real things on there, which is always nice. And it does give you that facility. You can put, say, a contour head cam on one side, put a light on the other. You've got these points here. Whether this will fit the ear covers and the chops, I don't know. Hard to say. I'm not exactly sure how that's mounted. I think they are something to do with the rails in this area here. So depending on the specs that these rails are built to compared to the real thing is where we'll decide whether that stuff is going to fit. Bungees here. These are just for retaining night vision devices if you were to have any. Obviously I don't at the moment, I don't have the mount. Probably not going to be a worry for Airsoft, but at least they've put them on. They're alright quality. You know, if you are going to be using any night vision, you're probably not going to be using this helmet anyway, so I'm not worried about that too much. Moving on to the inside. Now, a couple of these pads had fallen off when it originally arrived in the packet. Now, it wasn't actually to do with the Velcro that attaches them, it was the glue. As you can see here, when I've tried to take that pad off, instead of the pad coming away from the Velcro, the glue's just come away from the helmet. So it's not very easy to rearrange the layout of these pads to suit your head shape better because of that glue being rather weak and just a bit low quality. But the pads themselves, they're a decent thickness. The material of them, they're quite comfortable. I mean, overall, you know, for a cheap helmet, not bad at all. Not bad at all. Suspension system, very, very important. Straps themselves, it's quite decent webbing, I have to say. It's smooth, it's not going to sort of itch and cause you discomfort. The sort of leathery stuff, I'm not exactly sure what it is, you've got it all inside the actual chin cup area here and on the nape of the neck pad. Now this obviously, as you guys will know who know about the real thing, this suspension system, it's a clone of the Optcore H8 as the real thing uses, and they've done a pretty good job of copying it overall. I mean, for Airsoft, I'd say perfectly adequate, more than adequate really. So yeah, good, solid, comfortable straps. Stitching, and if you actually look there, that's a lot of stitching around, you know, these points. Done a lot of stitching to it for a cheap clone piece of gear. I'm impressed with that. Impressed indeed. The bolts that mount straps themselves got pretty solid. And they do the job. Not much I can say about that. The plastic hardware. Again, I'm rather pleasantly surprised by the plastic. It's, I mean, for some reason they've actually gone to all the effort of cloning the bloody trademarks on the plastic thing. I don't want to bother with that, but I guess some Airsoft players are going to worry about it. The plastic itself, normally with these Chinese brands, it's really brittle and just rubbery plastic, but this stuff isn't too bad. It's not exactly, you know, ITW, but it's not bad at all. The main clip here, it works. It's good and solid. It's not going to come undone by accident. You know, it's in there when you're actually wearing the helmet. So it's easy to secure and unsecure. One thing I really do like is these sliders here, the adjustment sliders. When you set them, they stay in place where you set them, and when you move them again, they just stay there and they take up the excess strap. Now, as those of you who are familiar with the standard issue British helmets, and I believe the older style American, all the Mitch helmets, the suspension system standard issue ones, when you adjust those sliders up and down, you end up with an extra bit of strap just hanging down there, and you get a little bungee and you have to try and tighten it up and roll it. Personally, I find with my issued Mark 6 that the Royal Air Force decided to kindly give me, I always find it a bit tricky trying to really secure those extra bits in place. This design just eliminates that problem entirely because of the way it just loops round back on itself like that. The pad here on the back of the neck works well. As I mentioned, this sort of leathery, sort of raw leather, I'm presuming it's not going to be actually off a cow, this will be some synthetic material, but it isn't uncomfortable at all. Again, with the stitching, a bit more of a close-up there. If you look at these areas, there's a lot of double, triple, etc. stitching. They've reinforced it, and it's good to see plastic hardware in the loops here. It's all solid. So yeah, I can't really, for the price, can't really fault this helmet. It's a faithful replica of the original. It's comfortable. The suspension system's good. It's secure. It sits solidly on your head. You've got a cooling feature there, which is going to be a lot better. You know, this model is going to keep you a lot cooler during the summer months compared to some of the other just one-piece replicas out there. The price is good. I mean, yeah, I've tried a couple other replica airsoft helmets for airsoft before now, and they've not exactly thrilled me. But this, I'm very happy with, and I see myself using this quite a lot. Very good, and a lot of potential for upgrading it as well. You can the Cry cover will go on there. Put the real arc rails on. I've no doubt you could replace the suspension with the proper ops core. You know, the real thing, the proper ops core system. And yeah, the shell, the plastic's good. It's thick. I mean, there's a lot of replicas of the ops core helmets themselves are fast, and the base jump and all that stuff. Fast carbon, not all the ballistic, I don't believe, but yeah, there's replicas of a lot of the other ops core helmets, and from what I've read, they're really, really thin plastic. There's not much. You can't really flex this at all, to be honest. It is very solid, and put together solidly as well. Good quality Patron. So yeah, there we go. That is the TMC clone of the Cry airframe helmet. Highly recommended, and I'll see you next time.